Hey guys, welcome back to Nerd Without Order, another Walking Dead Wednesday. Obviously, it's not Wednesday today. I forgot, got sidetracked, other stuff going on. But what I'm going to try to do is just try to record a bunch of these at one time and then just kind of have them post themselves onto YouTube on some sort of a timer or something to stay consistent. Well, I still at least brought y'all this episode this week. We're just going to pick up where we left off on issue 4. Issue 3 was kind of just a day in the life of living out in this camp. Kind of revolved around Rick and Shane going out on a hunting trip, gathering food. The women just going out and doing laundry. Again, just a day in the life. On the way back, the women get attacked by a walker. And then, we end on some sort of like narrative thread with Shane staring at Rick and Lori embracing each other. Obviously, there's something going on there that we don't know just yet, but we'll see what issue 4 has for us to, or what it has to offer for us. So it picks up that same night. So where the ladies get attacked, obviously another survivor comes and rescues one of the ladies, but it's that same night. You have Shane at the top of the RV kind of just keeping watch, and Rick comes up, scares the heck out of Shane. And Rick is kind of proposing that, hey, we should probably move from this place, right? We shouldn't have our camp so close to Atlanta. It's a city infested with all the walkers and all the dead. We probably shouldn't have a camp this close. And then, of course, Shane gets very defensive, saying that, if the government were to save them, that they were going to start in the cities. And, if they go out into the country or somewhere rural, that it would take them a lot longer to be found and rescued. Rick kind of gives in and just says, all right, well, fine, we're going to stay out here. But if we're going to stay out here, everybody's going to have to own a gun, right? So everybody can defend themselves. That incident that happened, that lady could have just turned around and shot that walker if she had a gun. So he's thinking of a way on how to get guns. The next 2 pages, we have Glenn. He's going back to the city. Glenn is the only person that goes back into the city to scavenge supplies. And Rick asks Glenn if he has seen a gun store in the city. Since Atlanta was kind of being shepherded by the government when the outbreak happened, nobody really had time to break into the gun store, so hopefully gun stores were still intact. At least that's what Rick was thinking. Glenn confesses that he doesn't know of a gun store, but he knows that somebody might. So he goes and asks Jim. Jim is another survivor of part of the camp. Asks him if there's a gun store, and Jim replies he's very reserved, very to himself. He just replies with, where there's one, right off of Pleasant and 38th Street. So Glenn goes and looks for a map. Now, while Glenn's looking for a map, Lori comes up and confronts Rick, saying why he needs to go into Atlanta again. This is just the 3rd day that he's been with his family or reunited with his family. But Rick justifies it by saying that he's doing this to keep everybody safe. Obviously, he wants everybody to be able to defend themselves. And he even promises Carl, that he's going to teach him how to shoot. Obviously, Lori doesn't agree with that, but he says we need to defend them. We need to defend ourselves somehow. So he kind of goes out with Glenn. As they're going out, making their way towards Atlanta, Rick asks about Jim, that very reserved survivor, and asks what his deal was, why he's kind of the way he is. And Glenn explains that Jim is the only survivor that got out of Atlanta. If you remember back in the earlier, I think issue 3 or the end of issue 2, a lot of the survivors that are there at camp are people that got there late. There was only one person that made it out of Atlanta, and that was Jim. And the only reason that he made it out of Atlanta was because the rest of his family got slaughtered, got eaten, torn apart by walkers, right? His wife, his sister, his brother-in-law, and all of their kids. They got swarmed by walkers, and he was the only one to make it out alive due to the walkers eating their family, or eating his family. As he finishes telling him that story, Glenn finds out that the gun store is actually 5 blocks further from where he found Rick, and obviously he's not very comfortable going that far into the city. So Rick goes and tells Glenn to follow him. He goes to the walker that him and Shane killed on their hunting trip from issue 3. And Glenn starts asking him, like, well, what are you doing? This is where we kind of get the idea of, or Rick gets the idea of, why walkers don't attack each other. He thinks that it's the smell. So he starts chopping up the walker and tells Glenn to rub these like blood and guts all over him, and maybe hopefully zombies won't attack them or even notice him. Obviously super disgusting. Glenn throws up a couple of times. And then they make their way into the city. As they're entering the city, they decide to test this theory on a walker that's just kind of sitting along a wall. At first it seemed like it wasn't going to work, but turns out even walkers have personal space, right? So Rick was saying that he just wanted me out of his face. The walker actually does not start going after them, so it seems like it's going to work. So as they're going through the city, they're having like full-on conversations. Turns out that, walkers make noises, so I guess the walkers see them having a conversation. They couldn't tell the difference. They just smell dead, so that's why they don't attack them. As they get further into the city, they realize that, it's a lot worse than they thought. The streets are covered with dead. There's a tank in the middle of the street. People that watch the show obviously remember the tank scene. So they start walking and they find the gun store. They get into it. They break into the gun store and start gathering a bunch of weapons, getting ammo, guns. And as they're leaving the gun store, it starts raining. And of course, the rain is washing all of the guts and the stench of the dead off of Glenn and Rick. So walkers start taking notice that, hey, these are just regular people, and start attacking them. Obviously, they panic and they start running. And while they're running, Glenn trips, knocks over the cart with all the guns and ammo, and Rick just defends him as Glenn's picking up all the guns and the ammo. While that's happening, Rick gets bit on the shoulder, turns around, kills the walker. Glenn gets the guns and he takes off, and they eventually make it out of the city. Now, once in safety, Rick takes his jacket off and realizes that even though he got bit, it didn't go through the jacket, so he's not infected. He tells Glenn not to tell Lori about it. Then we get these last 2 pages. You have Lori out here waiting outside of camp, obviously worried sick for Rick's safety. And Shane comes up and tells her that, it's raining, come back to camp, let's go by the fire, and takes her hand. Lori pulls her hand away and tells Shane to stop acting like that. Turns out, when Shane left Rick in the hospital, he went back to get Lori and Carl. And on the way back up here, or on the way back to the camp or whatever, they obviously slept together, and Lori confesses that night was a mistake. So pretty good issue. We're starting to get some more backstory on some of the characters like Jim. Now we know what's going on between Shane and Lori. Overall, really good issue. Now they have weapons. So here are the editor's note. So Robert Kirkman's cutting room floor notes, or letter hacks. Things that got left out. You guys can pause it if you want to. You can read that. I'm not going to go through it too much. There's some more cutting room floor. And then we have the variant covers. Pretty cool covers. That one's pretty cool. And then we're going to go to issue 5 next week. I said I was collecting the David Finch covers, and as I was going through my collection, this is the Tony Moore cover. I actually have the Tony Moore cover for issue 5. I need to go back and try to get those just so I have a complete collection with matching covers. But thanks, guys, for watching. We're on issue 4. I'm really enjoying the series. I'm glad that I'm doing the YouTube series as well. It's actually forcing me to read these issues. I have a giant stack. I've actually kind of just put them in a white box now and going through them. But I'll see you guys next week, and I'm going to try to stay consistent. Thanks, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe, and see you guys next week.